Good evening, everyone. Thank you for coming out tonight to hear what we have planned for the redevelopment of Smith Barcadere. I hope that each of you would have had a chance to review the design plans that we have displayed here, and I look forward to hearing from each of you tonight as we strive to work together to develop this parcel of land into a park that all of you, visitors and residents alike, will enjoy with your family. I would like to introduce my panel here tonight. Mr. Tristan Hayes, he's the Deputy Chief Officer of Commerce, Planning and Infrastructure. Mr. Colin Lumsden, he's the Executive Architect from Public Works. And Mr. Al T. Thompson, and he is the Chairperson of the Smith Barcadere Committee. Other members of the committee for now are the Honorable Lee Kurt Tibbetts and Chet Gomez. So at this time, I'll ask Adriani Webb if she would just say a prayer for us.
Here is fine. Heavenly Father, we thank you for your presence with us this evening. We thank you for bringing us together to discuss the park at Smith Cove. We ask that minds and hearts be open to whatever is being discussed here, that the park may be for the betterment of our community and enjoyed by all. We ask this in Jesus' holy name. Amen.
Thank you, Adriani. At this time, I will turn the mic over to my chairman, who will give a brief history of Smith Barcadere. Mr. Thompson.
Thank you, Representative Barbara. I may regret this statement, but thank you for asking me to chair this meeting tonight. However, we're here for a common cause, and it's nothing better than a nice, spirited community meeting. So we all have different ideas, and the purpose of this meeting is to get together as a community and to make decisions and to be involved with the community. The purpose of the meeting, once again, is to inform and involve and to plan and to make plans for the site known as Smith Barcadere. For those of us who are familiar with the Cove, we know that Smith Barcadere is unlike any other place in Cayman, or in fact in the world, and it's time for us to protect it. Smith Barcadere has been used for generations by our forefathers, by us, and hopefully by our children. But things are happening and happening rapidly to the Cove. We're here tonight to ask for your help. Yes, Smith Barcadere can't read what I wrote. It's not like it used to be. There are signs of wear and tear. Trees are dying and erosion is taking place. It is time to act. Now, our representative, Barbara, has been meeting with me for about a year regarding Smith Barcadere, and we've been quietly putting together some plans. She's asked Public Works to put together a plan, a proposal of what can be done. I must tell you, well, first of all, the plans are here that you can review, you can look at. There's nothing here carved in stone. This is just a concept or a proposal, as I stated, and things can be changed. But the purpose, once again, of this meeting is to have your input and for you to say what you would like to see. And I know we're not all going to agree, but we can agree that we need to do something about the cove. Let me give you a little bit of history of the cove. It's 3 parcels of property on the west side of the road. That property was owned by the Webster family, and in the 70s, the Websters came back to Cayman. They were originally from Cayman, but they immigrated to Jamaica, I don't know how many years ago. And, you know, I'm not a big historian. I know a little bit of history, but I see Captain Paul in the audience. He knows more about this than I do. In any case, they came back to develop their land, and they created a subdivision. Well, there was a lot where the original cove is, and when the subdivision was done, I think the purpose was to sell it. People in the community were a bit outraged and said, no, we've been using this for many years, and this needs to remain for the public's use. Well, I think the family got the message, and they actually donated 100 feet of land to the public, and it was given to the government for the use of the community. When that happened, the adjacent lot south of that property was purchased by the government. So the Webster family gave 1 lot, and the government purchased a lot. And that's why it ended up with 200 feet of land on the road. And to this day, they're still in individual lots. Also, the government purchased a piece of land across the street, which was made for into a car park. We have to give Linford Pearson credit for that, because he was the person that actually pushed it through at the time. He was in the government. Now, the piece of property to the north, which is a much larger piece of land, was purchased by the government in 2016. And I think I would say that this was done through the efforts of Minister Kurt Tibbetts at the time, who should be here tonight. He's probably on the way. But he was the person that put that together. And we, with meeting with him and the government, purchased the piece to the north. That gave the public a total of 3.31 acres. Now, what we would like to do is to combine those parcels into one. Sorry. My throat is not the best today. We will continue. One of the, well, before I say that, the site improvements we are proposing is a new paved parking lot with drain wells, a new his and her bathroom facility, sidewalks, curbs to restrict road parking, cabanas, new vegetation, garbage bins, and most importantly, lighting. Some of you may know or not know that in the last year, the government has formed a board or committee called the Government Public Land Committee. And the intention of that board, I'm not even sure, I met some of the members of the board, but the intention is that that board will control, maintain all public lands. I think the biggest parcel that they will be in charge of will be the public beach on West Bay Road. But this committee is new. They need a lot of help. They don't have a lot of funds, and they're I guess just getting off the ground. I'm not even sure who that falls under, but your ministry? Okay, you can throw the tomatoes at him now. To help develop Smith Barcadere, we're proposing, well, the first estimates, based on what has been done, if we want to go that route, based on what is proposed, we're looking at about a $500,000 investment to do it, and to do it right. The government, as I understand, don't have the funds to do it, and we are trying to put together some private funds that we can create a private-public fund to develop Smith Barcadere. We're hoping, so get down to brass tacks, we're hoping to raise $250,000 to put into this project, and we're hoping the government will match it. We don't know that. We'll just have to lobby the government and try to get them to come up with the funds, and I think it can be done. Now, some of our recommendations to the government would be as follows, and you may agree with these or you may not agree with them. They're only suggestions. Combine the 3 parcels and extend the restrictions imposed by the Webster family on the entire site. Now, let me explain that. When the Webster family donated the first parcel to the government for public use, in the title, and you can go to the Lands and Survey, in the title it's stipulated there should be no commercial activity and no loud music on the site. We would like to continue to support that. Now, when I said earlier we'd like to combine the 3 lots, that restriction is only on the original lot that was given by the family. Right. So we're proposing to combine the 3 lots and extend that restriction to the entire site. Excuse me while I take some drugs. I'm just on the tail end of a cold and my throat's still not 100%. The other items we're suggesting that we'd like to add to that list is no boating, no jet skis and wave runners, no windsurfing, no dogs unleashed, no scuba diving, no fishing of any kind, no large events over 100 people without permission. I'm not sure how that'll be done. And no bus tours from the cruise ships. These are suggestions, and if you have other suggestions or if some of these you do not like, we'd like to hear from you. Yes, ma'am.
Are these suggestions or are these going to be laws that will be policed and carried out?
We have a mic runner. Well, I'm almost finished. Carol, I'm almost finished. So just let me come to the tail end of my notes. One thing that we need suggestions on, one topic is overcrowding. How do we deal with overcrowding on the site, which is taking place now? And the other thing is security. So, this is what we're putting forward to you, the public, and we're asking for your input, suggestions. If it's something that we're suggesting here that you don't like, of course we want to hear from you and see if we can, we're not going to please everyone, but try to please the majority. We're trying to keep it democratic. So, anyone want to speak on some of the things that I said or sorry, 1 second please. I'd just like to acknowledge Minister Joey Hugh, who just came in. Thank you for attending. this falls under his ministry, and I guess you would say we have your blessing. Okay, write the check now. Okay, I saw a hand up.
Sir, thank you for putting this meeting together so that we can hear. Thanks for putting this meeting together so we have a chance to hear what you're proposing. As a lot of this information is extremely new to us and we're hearing it for the first time, many of us may have suggestions and feedback but may not be in a position to provide that this evening. Do you have an email or a phone number or something where we can document our feedback to government, specifically on what you've presented this evening? And one final last point, which is when is the deadline for submission of feedback? As you know, obviously it's being televised, but there are people that are not in attendance that may not necessarily be able to give their input tonight as well.
First of all, this is really early stage. Our representative, Barbara, has sought the help of Public Works to get some drawings and proposals done. As far, the committee has not even had a meeting, okay, because we wanted to bring this to the public first to get some feedback. But, and having said that, what I'd like to do is turn it over to Mr. Tristan Hides so he can explain what is being proposed.
I understand and I really appreciate that. I guess what I'm asking is this is, with the information that's being presented tonight, because it is new information to many of us, is there an email address or a phone number by which, when we take this information, we can carefully consider what it's being given to us and provide us with the opportunity to put feedback in writing to our district representative or to the appropriate ministry?
Thank you, Tara. Yes, you can communicate using my MLA email address, which is barbaraconnollygts@gmail.com. And you can also use my personal personal cell number, which is 916-5419.
Thank you so much. And then also, as you've mentioned, sir, you said this is in the early stages where you're just kind of getting feedback and you're still putting things together. Is there a deadline for community feedback and submissions of information before any final decisions are made to do anything to Smith Barcadere?
We have no deadline.
Okay, thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Okay, I'll pass the mic over to Mr. Hides, who will give you an overview on this whole project, as he's the expert on this. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Connolly. Minister, thanks everyone. Last year, as Mr. Thompson said, ministry, it's the same ministry, but under Minister Tibbetts, purchased that property which was about to be developed in upscale condominiums. It was the government at the time saw the opportunity to purchase it because they didn't want it to be developed, and I think that was very critical to it to begin with. Let me remember at the beginning, Mr. Alty said that the property was in three different lots. So you had the two lots that were originally Smith's Barcadere. Then you had a big lot right next door that was going to be developed. So government made the decision to purchase that. And as part of that agreement, it made the commitment to do it for this purpose only, not to be developed in any other way. So to a certain extent, sir, that has already been in there. Lands is not under our ministry anymore, but it's still government has already given that commitment. When we were asked to develop it or look at developing it, we were asked to be very sensitive to it because of its nature. We wanted to use it for the public, and we wanted to find to be as minimally invasive as possible. For instance, some of the issues that we're dealing with right now are very important. Parking for one, and more importantly, where the parking is. The parking currently is across the street, and with that being across the street, we have gotten, I mean, over the number of years, we've really gotten a lot of complaints about people crossing the street, locals, tourists, whatever, crossing the street and being, in jeopardy of getting hit. The NRA has been looking at some solutions. They were a little hesitant, to be frank, because of the corner that it's on, but we've sort of settled in our minds now, and Minister Hugh and Councillor Connolly made a request to get a pedestrian crossing in, and a pedestrian crossing actually sort of almost the first phase of it is going in there in about 2 weeks or so, to actually have. We had to order the equipment and all of that, the lights and all the sort of stuff. So that, I was told by the NRA yesterday that has now arrived. So they're now scheduling it to put it in. That's the start. But having said that, they recognize, or we recognize that, we still want to put a small parking lot on the new side or the beach side, because we'd like to still keep the roadside parking or the landside parking to as minimal as possible. So we had this balancing act that we had to do. We took a very good look at it. We could have made the parking lot a lot bigger, but we were very sensitive to the vegetation, etc. And similar to what we did at Spots, we don't plan to put any large asphalt down and make it this huge hardscape or anything like that. We will put a sidewalk in, and Colin, the architect, can discuss that a little bit more. And we obviously saw that with developing it, you get more use, and because of more use, the current small little toilet facility that's there may not be adequate. So we've programmed for that as well, a new toilet facility, and then some cabanas, and like I said, Colin will go through it. But I think it's important to also say that Minister and Councillor Connolly were very adamant that included in the restroom facility was a small little office that their plan is to have sort of a park attendant that may not be stationed there 24/7, but certainly can be there and can oversee things and keep sort of tabs on what you should be doing and what you shouldn't be doing. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Colin, because we had some, we took a really good look at this thing, and we understand that it is a very sensitive topic, and you're in a sort of a tricky situation, because some people don't want to see it developed at all. Some people want to see it developed, but minimally, and so we're here to try and find that balance. I'm not saying we have, but it's a first attempt that we can talk about. And so with that, I'm going to turn it over to the architect.
Good afternoon, everybody. I just want to at least say that the two people that spoke before me, Tristan and Mr. Alti, both studied architecture, so what they said regarding the design is pretty accurate. I don't have much to add other than the fact that we followed the wishes of the ministry, which was to have something that was minimally invasive. The materials kind of match the surrounding. There wasn't anything that was that would create any kind of interest or at least sway away from what's there already. The parking lot, like Tristan initially said, the parking lot itself doesn't have to be blacktop. It could be something that drains naturally. The materials, again, could be wood, things that are from the area. The cabanas also, which we have 6 10-foot cabanas on the seaside itself. I'm sorry, 6 10-foot cabanas on the seaside. Again, those will be placed naturally on the iron shore that's there. There might be some reclamation with sand to allow people to move through the property. The actual densely vegetated area that's to the north, east, I think there need to be some kind of de-shrubbing of the sort to allow people to use it properly. That means taking out all the smaller shrubs and cleaning it out, and it also serves as a security and monitoring issue. The building itself is a small toilet, male and female, with a small storage office sort of deal. And other than that, the site is pretty much left untouched. The pathways that you see meandering through from the parking lot are connectors from the parking lot to the cabanas. So that again itself, those are minimally invasive approaches. It doesn't have to be concrete, it could just be cleared path. And the overriding factor here is just having something that's environmentally friendly, and security, lighting, the public safety is of paramount interest. So lighting and other things, security from physical security, having someone present, also monitoring, but also from designing the place in a way that it's easily monitorable. Other than that, I don't have much to add. I'll just pass it back to Tristan. If there's any question that I could answer, I will definitely respond. Thank you.
And so, one last thing before we open it up completely to the questions. On the back of that, once it's developed, again, under the ministry, it was the public lands law was passed last year, I think, and or year before. It's going so quickly. And so that committee also then has the jurisdiction for this, so they can govern alcohol. They can. It's quite wide and extensive what they feel they can govern. So it's really up to you all to really talk to your representatives, tell them how you feel about what you want, and then the Public Lands Committee can sort of sanction it or not sanction it and oversee it. Thanks.
I kind of like to go back and talk about the site. I grew up across the street, and I was there from the time I was 2 days old. So I've been closer to this property than anyone else here. Okay, what kind of smart comment was that? But this site has changed over the years, and I can't believe how much has changed. When I was growing up, there's places where I fished as a boy that's now dry land. So there's sand, there's been a lot of sand that's built up. There was one cove that you could use. The one to the north was so rocky that you could not swim there, you could not use it. Now you can. It's completely covered with sand. So it's good in a sense. I noticed recently that right to the south of the property, which is adjoining, I think, Cayman Coves, there was a third cove that's forming. Nature is taking its course, and there's not too much we can do about that. But it's good. I mean, if we have a third cove, it's good. One of the downfalls is the use. There's so much use. The original property to the south, the trees, the roots of the trees are starting to be exposed, and there's some erosion taking place. It would seem to me like we need to bring in like fresh sand. That is probably very costly to do, but if we don't put fresh sand around the roots of the trees, you get any high winds, I think the trees may topple over, and we don't want that to happen. This is sort of a suggestion. In doing so, we may have to have some sort of low retaining wall to retain the sand. Of course, all this costs money, and you wonder where this money is going, but when you start talking about parking lots, deep wells, retaining walls, sidewalks, bathroom facilities, cabanas, lighting, it all adds up. And it has to be paid for. It's easy to say, oh, government should do it, but we can't sit around and wait for government to do everything. Sometimes we have to take the bull by the horns and do some stuff for ourselves. And we're trying to raise private funds to match public funds to put towards this project. I don't know how much we want to dwell on that in this meeting, but this has to happen at some point in time. I think what we could achieve in this meeting is, what do we want? Do we want what is proposed? Are there changes that you'd like to suggest? Or are they additions that you would like to see? We want to hear, we want to get your feedback. We want to hear what you're thinking. Anyone? Wow.
Hello. I don't want to stand up. Hi, I'm listening to the suggested proposals, and some of them are really good. My only drawback is about these cabanas that you all are looking to install. If we're going to keep Smith Cove, Smith Barcadere as close to what it's always been for those of us who grew up around that part and use it as a swimming hole, we don't want the cabanas. There's no need for them.
Sorry, you're saying you don't want cabanas?
No cabanas. Drop a towel, bring your cooler, whatever it
Okay,
is,
well,
typical beach life, no
I'll cut plenty of
cabanas.
the costs out. Is there anything else you don't want?
On the Facebook group, Save the Cove, it seems that most people don't like the cabanas. I think if we do a quick show of hands, who doesn't like the cabanas? Then it's quite clear in this focus group, no one likes the cabanas.
Okay.
That's the only thing. Personally, I like the parking. If you're good with the parking, I'm great with the parking because it's your view from your house, so I'm sure it's going to be done properly and nice.
Don't worry about me, I'm fine.
Fantastic.
When I'm in my yard, I'm in my own world. I don't care what happens around me.
The only one I'm a bit worried about is the bathroom's a bit inland. You're always going to have undesirables or things happening around there. Maybe we should move that to the corner towards Georgetown on the roadside there, almost like as you come out of the parking there. So it can be regulated better and seen from the road. That's just as a suggestion. And then, Mr. Thompson, you know this better than all of us. When you subdivide, redivide, I like your idea about putting it together with the Webster land and actually have those restrictions on it, which is fantastic. But what we found at Public Beach is obviously no one followed the rules there. No one's enforcing the rules, and that's my main worry. Now, yes, we did push through the lands law, thank you, and we did get that done, and then the Lands Commission. But the Lands Commission hasn't done anything yet. They have a budget to put inspectors in, but they haven't done that yet. All that I know is in the works, but it has taken quite a while up to now, and that's my only worry. We have all these rules, regulations, but no one enforces it, and that's my only worry. Thank you.
Let's go back to your suggestion about the location of the proposed bathrooms. If you look at the site, they are centrally located. I'm suggesting that if you put them too far out the way, people are going to go in the wrong place. When you got to go, you got to go. Sorry?
Here by the road here, and you're saying about crowd control, and then that way you can maybe even close off that parking if you needed to from the little office.
Yeah. I don't know if I agree with that. I really don't see what's wrong with the location of the bathroom, because you'd have to, if you're in the water and you are on the beach and you have to go to the bathroom, you would have to walk through the parking lot to get to the bathroom. I'm not so sure that's the right location. Remember, around the bathroom you also have washing facilities, like to wash the sand off your feet, etc. Yeah, also, yeah, there's an office. Yes, ma'am.
I feel if you put the bathroom too close to the road, it wouldn't be a good idea. Because I've been there so many times, and people come just to bathe and get water and then go. So if you put it too close to the road, it's easier for them to do it.
Okay, what was your other suggestion? Well, it seems like the cabanas gotta go. you know, I tell you the biggest.
I don't think we took a poll of who bought the cabanas. They asked about who didn't want them. I want cabanas. I didn't say they asked who wanted them. I think it's not.
We have some hands up for saying yes to cabanas.
Well, the cabanas them outnumbered. We could do a roll call again.
I think now one of the biggest issues with Smith Barcadere is parking. When someone, I've stood and watched this many times, when someone comes to the beach, use the beach, their first choice of parking is on the side of the road. And if they can park there, they will park there. Their second choice is the parking lot across the street because it's further away and they don't like to walk across the street. The proposed parking lot is, of course, on the property, but I just would like to know if there's some way of increasing that parking lot, because I just counted and there's 20-something cars, and that's not a whole lot more to add. So I don't know if you can increase that any, or there seems to be a lot of land on the north side that you could probably add more spaces.
No, I can talk. I got one question, Mr. Alty.
Go ahead.
You're going to be security. What about lifeguard? And you're going to be in this food vendors selling on the property? Thank you.
Yeah. And that's the point of the little office, so that the government, in essence, can have a parks manager there that can regulate these things or assist monitoring these things. As to your parking suggestions, sir, it's really again up to you all. We did have another plan with more parking that's not slanted the way you see it there. It's more perpendicular. But then, of course, the bigger the parking lot, the more trees you take out. So we try to balance it with the fact that there's parking across the street. So it's up to you all.
Mr. Tenant,
Yes, sir.
did not specifically answer about commercial activity.
That's up to the yeah, no. It's up to the PLC does that, and it's no. It's a no.
Yeah, apparently we have some latecomers, but we addressed the topic of commercial activity. There's already a restriction on one parcel saying no commercial activity. We would like to combine the three parcels. I'm repeating myself for the benefit of those who weren't here. We'd like to combine it, make it one parcel, and have those restrictions put on the entire site. Okay? Now, Peter, you want to say something?
Let's get that mic to him. Microphone.
No, I just wanted to say that there's a 2018 Honda CR-V outside that is about to pick up a parking ticket if they do not move. That's what I was saying.
Good evening. Barbara, I'd just like to thank you for putting this together. I'll to you as well. A couple of quick things come to my mind, okay? The one thing that bothers me more than anything else is the speeding down along that road, okay? If we don't stop the speeding first, we're not going to have a Smith's Cove, Smith's Barcadere, whatever you want to call it, because people are in danger along that road. We need to stop that with some sort of traffic control, like they do along the West Bay Road with the flashing light. I know we don't want to get into flashing light districts or whatever, but it is imperative that this is done. I think this should be done first, and then we can work on the other things after that. Now, something else I'd like to mention very quickly, talking about putting in new toilets. The ones that are there now, are these drain-away toilets that are going into the ground, or are we going to have self-contained types of toilets? Because we cannot afford to have sewage and all that going down into that area near the beach. If we do that, we're going to start losing that beauty of that area. It's going to seep out into the ocean at some point, and we're going to have problems with that. So we need to deal with that as well. I think that the concept of, sorry, I'll go ahead.
Peter, just to answer that one point, This has not gone to, let's say, professionals to get any advice on what kind of toilets and all that to use as yet, okay? So that's very early, it's still early on that.
Yeah. You know, I just want to make sure that that is included in any type of decision that is made, because I've seen so many areas around Georgetown and other places where sewage has been, has come out into the ocean. Right there in Hogstye Bay, I think there used to be a problem right there some years ago. But anyway, this is something that we really have to worry about, and the speeding is my biggest concern. And if we don't nip that in the bud, somehow I think that should be the number one priority. And that's just my own opinion, but I think we need to deal with that first, take care of that. Thank you.
Thank you. So again, the NRA is in the process. They've got the stuff. So they will. That is the first thing on the menu. They're going to be doing that. Now, we have spoken to them about other traffic calming devices to assist. But are you trying to say that that entire strip needs to be reduced in speed?
Well, sorry, from probably up near Grand Old House.
Correct.
In that area, all the way down to the far end of the parking lot.
Right.
And I'm not an expert on where to put this.
Right.
But the biggest thing there is people. Listen, one day very quickly, I parked there, stopped in the road, 4 people behind me.
Yes.
Some people coming the other way did the same thing.
Yes.
A man and his wife he was carrying a baby.
Right.
Crossed the road, we stopped to let them across.
Yes.
Some idiot overtook us from behind, and it was one of those Kias, black and white, that's all I remember. It was going so fast. He almost missed that guy with that little baby by about 6 inches, I swear. He had to jump out of the way. And this is the kind of thing, people are in so much of a rush around there, maybe even some speed bumps would be a bad
Right. Well, I'm not going to commit to speed bumps, but because I'm not. I mean, I know NRA falls under that ministry, but they are looking at traffic calming for that area. So it might be like maybe rumble strips that you have as you approach the roundabout or something to make you know that you should slow down. The flashing lights are definitely included in the pedestrian crossing.
those signs that say,
Yes, right, correct. That is there too, sir. And so they are going to be putting that in very shortly. As for the toilets, it is right. I know. I mean, because of the type of toilet you're talking about, you're talking essentially about a composting toilet, an environmentally friendly, self-contained.
Fiberglass tanks which can be pumped out on a regular basis.
Right. I see what you're saying. Right. Well, no, we will look at that. Yes, we did talk about having an environmentally friendly situation, but I can't, again, because of regulations and from the Water Authority on it, I can't really promise that you'll have that, because we will probably have to put in a deep well, but it goes to 250 feet or whatever. Sorry, sir, one more thing. And as far as the parking go as well, what we have done that you've noticed on those plans, we've put like a lay-by or kind of a pull-off, because we do know that the bus, and when I say bus now, the public bus system, do stop there quite frequently, and so we had somewhere where they could literally pull off the road and dump their passenger and take them on, because we found that to be a safety issue as well.
I'm just a little bit unclear, so I just will ask the question to get a bit of clarity. Whether the focus of the redevelopment of Smith Barcadere is to service the number of people who are currently using it, or is it to increase the capacity for more people to go there? Because it's well used now.
Can I just make a point there? Somebody mentioned overcrowding as an issue. And I mean, I was down there on the way to the hall here tonight. I stopped in, and there must have been close to 200 people there tonight. And that's midweek. I mean, I couldn't believe it. So many people down there. And it wasn't one of these beach parties where you have a group all of a sudden get together and celebrate. So, it's going to be an issue. But what we need to remember, if you drive down South Sound Road, I don't know if government have actually bothered to look at it, but because the road itself is going to have a major congestion problem. You've got, I would say, something like 500 condos in the course of construction right now, and there's probably another 500 that are being planned, that are going before the planning board. I mean, it's just, there's condos up and down the whole of South Sound, and there's still land that hasn't even been developed along there, a lot of this swampland. So we're going to get vast increase in numbers in the South Sound area. So that has to be borne in mind, when we're looking at things. I don't think whatever we do, we're going to be able to cope with the numbers that are eventually going to, descend upon poor old Smith's Cove. So all we can do is do our best. But one issue I wanted to mention was parking. I'm not all that keen on using our beautiful beach land there to park cars. I noticed tonight, I went and had a look at the car park, and right next to the car park, there's a big, large, overgrown, empty lot that's even bigger than the existing car park. And I just wonder if anybody has had a look at whether that piece of land could be acquired, which would save us, concreting over some of our nice land that we have on the beachfront. To me, I think that's the last resort, using the beachfront land to park cars. So I just wonder if that option has been looked at, the piece of land next door.
From my official meeting with Barbara, our representative, that came up, this piece of property, and she has looked into the ownership. I don't know what she's found out, but it's not a bad idea. But however, I must go back, your first statement saying to use the beach land for parking. If you look at what is proposed, where the parking lot would go, the second parking lot, is really not on the beach. It's parallel to the road, and it's not in front of the existing cove. It would be on the recently acquired property to the north of the cove. So it's, and this gentleman's question of, well, are we developing it to have more people or to accommodate what's there? The thing is, it's public land. I have no idea how you can control overcrowding. That's the government will have to determine that. But the people are coming one way or the other. If the property to the north is opened up a bit, right now it's you can't use it how it is. I mean, it's places where people can go and hide and commit crimes, etc. If it is opened up better, there's more area for people to spread out, and it could accommodate more people, because the people are coming whether you like it or not.
Yeah, I'd also looked at that area, and I've seen where the proposed car parking area is going to be, which is down that end. But, and I agree, at the moment it's a complete and absolute jungle. You can't even get in there. So it has to be opened up. But I still don't think it should be opened up as even a part of it as a car park. You're talking about 20 spaces. That's not a lot. In fact, what's happening right now is you've got virtually, if you look at the length of the total property, you've got 20 cars already parking along the roadside, and I don't see that that's necessarily wrong. As long as you've got enough setback from the road itself, then I don't see why you can't officially allow parallel parking along, especially along the end where the jungle is, without having to go in and start clearing some of that bush purely just to create more car parking spaces. But I come back to the other issue, which is the ultimate solution, is trying to acquire that piece, where the existing car park is.
Right. So again, it is a balance. And so you also have to consider the government paid a huge sum of money for that piece of property to stop it from being developed in the first place into condos. Then now to then purchase another piece of property and put another parking on the land side, and have the risk of everybody traversing that road. It was just a balance, and we tried to find it. So I understand what you're saying. I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm just trying to say that, you got to try and...
But as long as you've got a proper pedestrian crossing, I don't see that as an issue. I mean, you've got pedestrian crossings up and down the West Bay Road, and you have plenty of tourists crossing the road up there every minute of the day. So that's not an issue to me. As long as you have a proper pedestrian crossing, you can have the parking on the other side of the road.
We'll leave it at that, in my opinion, sir. The other thing is, I have to say, the minister has spoken, and the NRA have spoken at length about South Sound Road in general. I don't know if you've heard, but he's spoken quite a bit about redeveloping Georgetown and all the different traffic issues and looking at that. NRA at the moment, we've started purchasing what's called a modeling software to look at all of that sort of stuff. So it's not, we aren't doing this in isolation. We are looking at that road and many Walker's Road, and the list goes on. So, but we're looking at it holistically and seeing and that's the purpose of this software if this road is limited to X amount of traffic, what happens on that road? So in answer to one of your questions, we're looking at all of South Sound as well, sir.
Yeah, it's not just
Not just
it's the increase in South Sound residents.
Development. Agreed.
A lot of those will be wanting to use the code, so you're going to have a dramatic increase in people using the code from the increase in nearby residents in excess before.
Mr. Chair, thank you. Thank you very much, Ms. Barbara, for this opportune meeting. I just hope that with the limited access to beaches in Georgetown, that this will be quite an eye-opener for Georgetowners to use, namely so the Georgetown South people. As you know, there's very little beach in Georgetown. The Georgetowners now have to go to the beach of the Governors, which is very private, and then the other one has been taken up commercially and otherwise. So this one here, which is Smith Barcadere, has been the one that get the highest number of persons who wish to swim. I don't go there myself, I go to the other one, but I do see the locals swimming there a lot. So you will have a preponderance of locals using that beach, and it's very noble of you to do this. But I'd like to ask you to, when you set it up, if you can put somebody in charge of it, someone that understands toilets, and someone that understands crowd control, and someone that understands security. In addition to that, I would like a lifeguard there. We have lost so many people in the Cayman Islands, in particular my age. And coming on to senior citizens, I was talking to Colin just now and said, well, I don't read maps quite well, but I would hope that, and that's the one reason I don't go to Smith Barcadere anymore, because having a hip problem, I have to park on the other side, take my stuff and walk across, hip across there, and that's quite hurting. That hurts a lot. So when you're doing that, you have to consider that senior citizens should go to the beach and want to go to the beach, but if they don't have fluid access, they are not going to be able to do that. In terms of you were saying that the beach is not going to be used for commercial, but let me tell you what happens at the beach at the Governors, not the Governor's beach, the beach at the Governors. There are a lot of yoga, a lot of boats, swimming, a lot of activity. Now, I don't know whether that's commercial, but people seem to be enjoying themselves. No one says anything to them. So that's going to be a very difficult task for the person who is looking after this property. I would like to have great toilets there and showers. I, for one, when I go to the beach, I take all my clothes, I dress outside of my car. Hopefully no one looks. So I'm asking if you could put a proper toilet with showers so people like yourself, if you want to go to swimming early, and which we do now, more and more and more. And so I would ask if that is done. I would also ask you to let this be the beginning of looking at all the beach accesses, to develop them, in particular those on the South Sound, Shamrock Road. There are lots of them there to be, and this would give a leeway for people to swim, because where I live, there's a lovely beach, but you can't get there. So if we could look into that, then this would ease way for a lot more people to get the natural stuff that they want, because I can understand now they don't want too much additions. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Lucille. Well, in the plan there is a male and female restroom along with the shower. So that is provided in the plan. In terms of lifeguards, I know that's a crucial issue, and most of us are aware that that's needed on all of our beaches, or at least the main public beaches. Now, that's a huge expense, but that's something we're going to have to deal with or consider at some point in time. If not, certainly the lifeguard, the rings, have them accessible somewhere during around. So in the case of an emergency or whatever, somebody can grab a ring and save a life if that's the case. I do agree. Smith Barcadere is our beach. We have to own that, and it's for all of us. It's for our Georgetown residents, and it's for our South Sound, but it's also for the whole Cayman Islands. And the fact of the matter is, we don't want this to be. We want to own this. We don't want this to be a dark park. We want this to be a South Church Street. We want this to be a South Sound Park. So I think we have to all just take ownership of this and be a part of this development. And this can be our legacy. The people of South Sound, the people of Georgetown, this is what we need. We really need to have somewhere that we can call our own, because believe it or not, I mean, there's not a whole lot of beaches that we can go to now, and we as residents can really go there and enjoy with our families. So I think we need to consider that. This is for the Cayman Islands. This is for the Caymanians. This is for the residents of Cayman.